Hey everyone, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a fantastic weekend for track and field. We've got plenty to unpack today. The Wonder Diamond League was in Rabat, and it was nothing short of spectacular. There were some really standout performances, notably Beatrice Chebet, Femke Bol kicking things off in fabulous style. Some consistent performance as well from the likes of Akini Simbine. And we'll get to that. The Continental Tour was a couple of days prior to that, and a day before that rather, and we had some interesting stuff there as well. So over the next hour or so, however long you want it to be, we'll dive into some of the biggest performances and storylines from last week, and leading into what also is going to be a fabulous week for track and field. Number of interesting meets this week. We also get to see the Grand Slam track again, moves to Philadelphia, 2-day shortened program, moving away from what was originally a 3-day event. So I'm excited to see that as well, even though I've been critical of some of what's happening there, but that's for another day. All right, so join in, let me know how you're doing, and we'll kick things off. So I want to kick things off with what's on the thumbnail, what's starting things off. And we start with Shericka Jackson, the two-time world champion over 200 meters, one of the most dominant sprinters we've seen in the last how many years. On Sunday, she opened up her Diamond League 100-meter campaign in Rabat. We saw her a few weeks before that in Xiamen in over 200 meters. Battle got the best of her then, and she wasn't looking her best, but the assessment here is that she looks much improved. I'll get the results on the screen briefly here, and we could see what was happening there. She won in a time of 11.04 seconds. Had a slow start, eventually eased their way into her running. You saw some relaxation, look composed, not quite exercising maximum effort, but that can sometimes be deceptive. But of course, it's a sign that she may be finding her rhythm again. And there's a lot of fanfare, a lot of conversation over Shericka Jackson these last few weeks, especially she opened up over 300 meters, got beaten by Julian Alfred. She went to the Diamond League, didn't win there over 200 meters. And then I suspect the performances that raised some eyebrows would have been those two relay anchor legs in China for the World Relays. And so you start to wonder, people start to have all sort of stuff. There are people writing her off already, which is a bit premature. So we have to think and put things in context, and I've been on record to say this already. But the key thing here is she missed the Paris Olympics, and she's been gradually working her way back. It's still early season if you think about the context of what she wants to accomplish. The World Championships is still in September. She has a bye in the 200 meters. So they can work things out. And so we're getting to that point in the season, and I think now is the time to start making some assessments. But we're still ending May. So by the time we get to mid-June, and you'll see her again relatively soon, I believe she's booked for the Racers meet and wherever else. So you start to see a Shericka Jackson that you can start to make a better assessment on. And when we get to that point, if we get to mid-June, getting into late June, and things aren't looking great, then maybe it's possible then we can make better assessments there. But it's still a bit early in my estimation. And the thing that I speculated on, and I'm going to continue to push this argument, is that for an athlete coming off injury, there's often a gap between being cleared medically and feeling free. And by free, what I'm trying to underscore is, look, your scans might be looking good, your workouts are clean, they're looking good. But it takes some time for the body to reconnect, to fully reconnect, to run without fear or hesitation. And when you get to that point, and that's the point she needs to get to, once she reaches that point, I believe we'll see her back to her best, whatever best might look like for an athlete of her age. Is the best 21.4 again? I don't know. That might be pushing it. But you'll get to see a high quality runner who presumably should have a lot left to give. So I would necessarily write her off. It was good to see. I watched the race a number of times. I'm going to look at it again here just briefly, but I thought to make some running there on a few of those athletes, and in the end, won comfortably. I would say, presumably a comfortable run. Barnes had a good start. I thought Barnes had a good start. I will say it's also good to see Sears back. She talented athlete, a 10-7 athlete. Haven't seen her in a while because of injury, we all know, and she started to come back. We saw her last week and now again. McCoy, for me, also is an athlete that uh, is running well this season. Got an opportunity to get into the Diamond League. Pretty good. And the next up for me, at least my estimation for McCoy, would be to trying to edge below that 11-second barrier. So if she can get into the sub 11 barrier there, then that should be good, So yeah. So let me know your thoughts on what's happening and if you agree. But I really think that the Shericka Jackson that we saw these couple of days is the Shericka Jackson that looks like she's getting back into some semblance of feeling comfortable. It's not a particularly great time. It doesn't have to be. She won the race, so the optics always looks better when you win the race. But there's sub 11 right there already. When you look at it, you could see that there's a lot to unpack still, but you realize that there's she could have gone sub 11 if she pushed herself, right? I think that's pretty clear in my book. The win was negligible in the sense that it was 0.2. So if it had much better win, should have obviously gone sub 11. If it was in a negative direction, different, we're talking about something else. But you look at the capability of the athlete, and she looks okay. She's not giving you much in terms of facial expressions, except for a serious face, but sometimes you get that from her. But I feel much better about what we saw, a couple of days ago versus what we saw at the World Relays and so on. And it's just the timing, maybe the preparation where they are. Yeah. So hopefully she continues to move forward and get much better. I want to stick with the 100 meters, and since we're on the 100-meter thing, I want to go and talk a little bit about. And don't forget to get your comments in and your thoughts on what's happening, and I'm happy to take them. I want to switch bases a bit and stay in the 100 meters, but want to go back to the men's 100 meters. Again, let me get the results up first. We just, refresh our memory here. We're looking at Akina Simbine going sub 10, winning comfortably race for him in the end there. He's in fantastic form. 995. He still has the world lead at 990. And what can we say about Simbine? He's hot all season. He ran indoors, got on the podium there, and he continues this undefeated season. In a sense, he's keeping the streak alive. Amaniala had a decent start, to be expected, but he faded, didn't have much in it. But Kerley had to make some running there, getting into the race, running 10:07 from Kerley. If he had a little bit better start, maybe he would have overtaken Alaniala. And he came back later for the 200 meters, which was good to see there, running a bunch of stuff. And a word on Fred Kerley, we've talked about him a lot, but it's good to see him running despite whatever legal issues and off the track issues that he's been having. He's sidelined from the Grand Slam track. I think their official statement, or something to paraphrase, means he's out of their league until the legal issues have been cleared. I suspect we won't see him unless something works its way through the system by the time we get to the Los Angeles meeting, which is pretty much a month away after the one coming up. So I suspect we won't. But it was a good run from Simbine. Again, my take on it is he's running a lot now. A full indoor season. He's consistently dipping under 10 seconds. And it begs the question for an elder statesman like him, what should we expect, right? What can his body give us? And will he be running the entire summer season? Perhaps he can, and then get some time to relax and come back again by the time we get to the World Championships, which is the last thing on the program this year. So you can do your full outdoor season if you so desire. Ends in the Diamond League final there, and then you move on. But I wonder about how long he can sustain this. I would love to see a little bit of a relaxing approach. Maybe not compete for a couple of weeks, get some training in, maybe load up a bit, and then come back again for the latter part of the season. So if Wayne is in the house, he's saying Simbine running real well. I want to see him holding this form for September. So that's the interesting question, Wayne, and the one that I've been trying to think through this whole period. And given his age, given the fact that, and age is one thing, two, or maybe more importantly than the age for me, is that Akina Simbine has never gotten on a global podium for outdoor. And he's coming up to a period in his career where there's not much left. It has to be going down on the other side. He's been running for a good 15 years or so. And so that's a long time in track and field. And running very well, and he's missed out at major championships, finishing 4th, 5th, you name it. And so the question is, will he be doing everything to focus on trying to get on that medal podium in Tokyo? Tokyo is a special place. A lot of great stuff happened there. You go back to the 1991 World Championship, you go back to the Olympic Games there, magic happens. But I like you holding that form is interesting. I suspect he could, but how much racing can he take, or should he expose the body to? That's the question. I mean, he hasn't gone down into the 9.8s yet or anything like that, so it's not like he was close with the 9.9, but I suspect that he has to get faster at some point, because I believe the other guys will get faster. But he's in a competitive field that is difficult to say you'll get on the podium. If he was running 9.7s consistently, then we might say something else. But I'd love to see him on the podium, only for sheer joy of the sport. But again, nothing is guaranteed. You have to earn it. You have to win it on the night, and he has to get it right. But I'd love to see him finally deliver. And that would be a good way to cap off his career at some point. How you're doing? Dean saying, hey, good night. I like Simbine, but I can't see him medal in the individual 100. Only way I see him medaling is if the big guns get injured. That's the issue, right? So it's a competitive field. You're right, Bina. I don't know what we'll get. There's a lot of guys who show up big time. You have to think if we just put off the top of our hands, you're looking at if Shane Thompson's healthy, if he's running as well as he did last year, he'll find a way on the podium. The same we'll usually say for Noah Lyles, even if he's not running as best as possible. He's a steely competitor, so he might find his way there. He's a defending champion. He's had a little bit of a niggle recently, pulled out of that Adidas meeting there in Atlanta, the Atlanta City Games, but I suspect he's fine. We'll see him soon. And then there's people like Kung Fu Kenny's having a fabulous season. There's no, I expect he'll take that right into the USA Nationals, and he's there. Fred, as much as Fred is mercurial, Fred is an athlete that is getting into trouble here and there, and or sideshows, if you want to put it that way. If you don't want to call it trouble, but I think it's trouble. But he's also one of those type of athletes that can push for something. I don't know what we get from the likes of an Oblique Seville. He pulled out. He's not running at the races meet. Hopefully, it's nothing long term. I mean, he has struggled in the last couple of years to find his way on the podium, even though he's probably favored for a couple of podium runs. The big question here is Letsile Tebogo as well. Tebogo for me, and we can look at the results here just to put it back up briefly. Letsile finishing way down the track, 10:43. He later on didn't show up for the 200 meters. And then he said he was been dealing with some recurring injury. He didn't give any real detail on what that injury was. If he did, I certainly didn't see it. And the day before in the press conference, to be honest with you, it looked okay. He was talking up trying to do both events, and they entered for both events because the goal was to test the body. And early, he's been running some 400 meters, but I'm not quite sure what's up with Letsile. I wish him very well. Hopefully, he gets back to his best soon. Super talented athlete. So yeah, if he's healthy too, he's in the mix too. And that's just a few guys. So to go back to your point, Dina, I suspect it's challenging, and that's why I think for a guy like Simbine, who's been around for a bit now, you want to be careful in terms of your management of the season, because the worst thing is to get to the World Championships and find your way off the podium. That's the difficult thing. But so far, we have to be season is giving us, he's delivering, he's winning against everybody who shows up against him so far. And he looks good. We'll see what we get from him as the season progresses. Let me get back to your other comment here. I want him to get back to form because he's the only athlete can beat now and 200 like he did in Paris. Oh, you mean let's see the Tebogo? Yeah, I wouldn't rule out Kung Fu Kenny either in terms of doing that. The double is tough, and the thing about this year would have been beautiful again is that the guys who you would put on paper to be competitive over both the 1 and 2, at least over the 200 meters, were all doubling. Kung Fu Kenny's doubling, Letsile was doubling, and Noah was doubling. So you get to that point with no one really with a super restful kind of a season outside of, say, Aaron Knighton, if he makes the team, and his progress has not been straightforward. And last season in particular, he had some issues with antidote, which he's subsequently cared for. So yeah, I would love to see. You never want to see athletes get injured because it ruins the sport in general, and you want everybody to be fit and ready. And we'll see. Oh, yeah, and I forgot about Coleman. His Coleman Washington over. I don't know. I don't think so. He hasn't been looking particularly great in the few races that I've seen him in the season. I saw him in the Japan when he was in Japan, the same race that Shakari on that same meet rather. Was that yeah, and I saw him somewhere else. His start isn't looking the way we normally expected, but I think it's a bit early to write athletes off. We can start to get concerned in terms of if you're not seeing things that will give you hope, but we'll see in the next few weeks what we get from Christian Coleman. I'm not sure where next he's running. I haven't looked at the schedule if he's going Diamond League yet or if he's doing another continental tour, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he's done unless he's struggling with some injury, which I'm not sure about. I haven't seen anything on that in terms of injury. And then speaking of that, while we're all over the place on that stuff, uh, Trevor Bromell is back. You know, we saw him recently too. He's running really decent, and he was what he struggled with injury last year, and he had a good 991 recently, looking decent. So I think I don't know what to say. I think everybody should be fine at some point. You know, it's uh, I'm just trying to find that race. I don't know where that race. I had a race earlier, but yeah, I was looking at this Bromell race again, and he looks good. The Puerto Rican guy was chasing him down, but I think that the US will be fine on that front. But as for where Coleman is, I don't. I think it's a bit early to say if he's done. To be honest. Uh, what do you think about Shericka? I think she should focus on the 200 this season only. I think that injury she got last year was bad. Yeah, I mean, there's been speculation. I think maybe she had said it out of her mouth too that they might just be doing the 200. I don't know. It depends on how much work they're doing. To double is taxing on the body. It's a lot more workouts, a lot more load, and I suspect it depends on how they're feeling. It's not easy to consistently double for year after year after year, and especially as you get a bit older, it can take its toll. I think they'll do the right thing, which is they'll assess and see. The beauty about the 200 is that she doesn't have to worry about it. She's the defending champion. But she has to run some 100 meters as well. It will only sharpen her, So I I don't know. I think she'll be fine. The thing about the double, I, I guess the question here, as you raise it, as I'm thinking about it, is what's the end point, right? What is the goal for the culmination of the career? So we're talking about, one of the great 200-meter performers we've seen in a long time. If we just look at seasons and the consistency and the fast times and the times that are very close to the world record, and perhaps she should have gotten it a couple of times, but the conditions weren't there. But we could look at an athlete that could potentially end a career and not secure a 200-meter Olympic gold medal, right? It's certainly possible. So when I say that now, the context is: do you think about what do you want to do, right? So the next Olympics is in Los Angeles. You have to think that's pretty close to the end of your career. If all things being equal, obviously you could last much longer, but how many athletes can want to do that or can do that? It also depends on how your body reacts. So do you think about saving the season, doing less load, making sure that you're at your best by the time you get to that point? That's a kind of calculation that I suspect can be made. No, because you could look at two great 200-meter runners that could walk away and never, win an Olympic gold, which, it happens, but it would be a tragedy. Well, maybe not a tragedy, but it's certainly a blemish. The likes of a Noah Lyles, um, he might walk away and never see Olympic gold over 200 meters, which would be shocking when you think about it. But this is how it works. Sport is not always kind to you. And yeah, so, and not only that, for Jackson to not even to have the medals, right? Over the 200 meters, if you think about it, it struck me as it was going to be a certain 1-2 in Tokyo behind Elaine. I don't think anyone was. I don't think she was good enough to hang with Elaine at that time, but she would definitely be on the podium. And then last year was just a bad season. You know, just couldn't get to the Olympic Games to showcase what was a tremendous season in Budapest and also the year before in Oregon. So I don't know. I suspect they have to feel it depends on how the body works, right? If you can't manage the training load for both, if it's a management issue, then in a situation like that, they have to think about what's best for the athlete. And the 100 meters is tough. And if you're not in, it's very competitive. It was always competitive for her to actually secure and win that if even when she was at her best. The execution of her race is not always the best over 100 meters. I think they'll admit that there's a lot of improvement that had to happen. And even if you look at yesterday's race, the first phase is just not what you want to see. So 200 is probably gives you a lot more ability to make some missteps if you're in good shape. And I'll continue to repeat it that I think for Shericka Jackson, all she needs to do is to get into a 21-8 shape and she should find a way on a podium. Right? Is 21-8 good enough to win this year? I don't know. We still have to wait to see what you get from the likes of a Gabby Thomas, what you get from Julian Alfred, who looks like she's going for the double. Asha Smith should be at her best this year again. How far, I don't know. But it, but 21-8s usually get someone on the podium. I don't think I'd have to check the record books again, but historically, I don't think you've run that fast and not find your way on the podium. Obviously, getting on the podium for her would be less than desired. She's used to winning over 200 meters. If she can get back to 21-7 shape, 21-6 shape, I'm thinking she'll win the whole thing. So, yeah. All right, another one from Dina. It's like when it comes to the Olympics, Shericka got cursed or something. I noticed because back in 2016, when she picked up that bronze in the 400 meter, she was battling with a minor injury. Her body is only fit for the World Championships. I mean, it's hard to say. 2016 was a different period too. I'm not sure she could have won the 400 meters at that point, to be honest with you. It's just, Shawnee was different class then, so. But I see what you're saying there. Sometimes it works out like that, right? It's everything, as they like to say, things have to align the right way. You do your best, and it's one of those things. The sport is unkind in the sense that you can have a fabulous season and then you make a misstep at the Olympic Games or the World Championships, and there it goes, right? And it it has happened to many athletes, and it will continue to be that way for uh for the consistent future, right? For the future to come. Like we'll always see top class athletes not make it, but that's how it works. Margaret, how are you doing? It's like appreciate you requesting a like on the live. Thank you. Yeah, give the show a like, guys. Hopefully you guys are doing well. And yeah, get your thoughts in your comments. We'll certainly look at all of that. So yeah, that was the yeah, I knocked that out. I wanna switch gears again and let's talk a bit about the And anything you want to talk about for sure, I'm always game. Once you get it out there, I'll get it up and we'll discuss it. But I wanted to turn to another woman that's been back this season she's changed her how she starts the season, and that's Femke Bol. So Femke Bol yesterday opened her campaign in the Diamond League over 400-meter hurdles, our first race of the season. And normally she opens up in low 53s, and she went to a blistering run here of 52:46, in the process getting meet record season best. That's second best only to Sydney McLaughlin, who ran that 52:07 in Miami, in Miramar rather, some weeks ago in Florida. Fabulous run there from Femke Bol. Interesting season for her. They've changed a number of things for Femke. Technique when she started to race. So we didn't see her this year running a lot of indoors. She didn't run a lot of 400 meters like she did the last time. She did have a great background season as usual, from what I understand, but race management. But they've also changed the technique, which is a very interesting one. Many years ago, she changed the stride patterns, how many strides she's taken. But this time, they're now attacking the opening hurdle with her weaker right leg. So if you look at it, she's leading with the right leg for the first hurdle. And what that really means is that they're alternating the lead legs for the first 5 hurdles. And then as it gets to the end part, she just switch to her stronger left leg and from 6 to 10. Really interesting move there. Trying to think what that will do for Femke. Will that get her closer to McLaughlin? I don't know. There's been a question that she's not attacking the first part of the race and she's waiting for it too long. And so the idea is that if she can be much better over the first 200 into 250, 300, then perhaps it can push her somewhat. Somewhat of a disappointing season last year. To lose to McLaughlin is not a disappointment because Sydney is ridiculous. And last year, obviously, Femke also went into big territory going sub 51, which made us believe that getting into the Paris Olympics, she would be challenging, and it wasn't quite a runaway for Sydney. In the end, it became a runaway for Sydney, and not only that, Femke just didn't deliver the way we would anticipated, and shout out to Anna Crockwell, who just got up for that silver medal. And so it's an interesting kind of a shift this season. And she's a bit more restful. She's not running as much as she normally would, and they're also tinkering with the technique. It's positive sign so far. I suspect if you're able to open up the way they did yesterday, or she did, well, including the team, it suggests that the new technique is working a bit, and it might be something interesting for the season to come. So we got to watch for Femke Bol, but that was one of the highlight performances for me at the meet a couple of days ago. All right, I don't know what you guys think. Let me know. I still don't think anyone can challenge Sydney. Sydney is just too good right now, to be honest with you. Sydney is so good that it's challenging to think about, like, what is it that she wants to do. We see her do some interesting stuff coming up at the Diamond League soon. Not the Diamond League, at the Grand Slam track soon, but yeah. But I would love for the world record to go one more time to see if Femke can push her. But if I don't know how much more there's to give. But it could be a historic moment once more again when we get to the World Championships in Tokyo. All right. Appreciate everybody on the live. Thanks for liking the video. Get your thoughts and your comments. I want to shift again and talk to let's transition to the men's 800 meters from Rabat. That was again uh, a fabulous performance. So I want to put it underscore two ways. So Masalela again, he won in what 142.70. That's a world lead. The kid is steadily, I believe, backing up his performances. So we saw a great performance in Doha the week before, and I think he had some good runs again. And you start to look at him, and you weren't quite you were I wasn't quite sure where he was in the sense that it's one thing to run, pretty fast to run a low of 143s, but to start to step it up at this time to drop that here, but not only do it, but to do it uh, in a race where you had Wanyoni, who had some good performances earlier this season in Grand Slam track as well. And so, and Wanyoni for me is only a matter of time before he breaks the world record, which is, I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago. Probably wouldn't even have said it until last year when he opened up in Kenya and ran that ridiculous 141 in the altitude, which is difficult to do once you start to get above 400 meters. It's ridiculous running. And so this was a competitive field. Wanyoni didn't run as well as we wanted. The Max Bergen there also running, but it was good running from a bunch of these guys, 143 for a bunch of them. And even Brandon Miller there running 143. I I like what I'm seeing from Botswana in general in terms of their middle distance running. I think they're coming to the forefront as well on that. But Masalela is interesting. I don't know if when we get to the World Championships he'll feature, but you have to think he will. So far, he's showcasing his talent. We still have to wait for the likes of a Mark or a Rob to, you get a bunch of guys run 141 last year, and you can see, Cole Hawker, all these guys. So 800 meters is in an interesting space. What I'm seeing and I'm underscoring is that we're getting to a point where we're gonna get a bunch of guys getting into that sub 142 shape, like we saw last year with Sedrati as well and the likes. And what that really means is that we're pushing barriers again. So that brilliant night in London when David Rudisha delivered what was the most spectacular thing of the London Olympics, possibly on the track, and we thought we would never see the like. It's getting pretty close to potentially another world record. Could have happened last year. I thought it may have had happened, but it didn't. So we're getting to that point. So that was to me a splendid performance. I know a lot of people don't spend time thinking about 800 meters, but we should because I think it's really good. Uh, there's a lot of great out performance. Before I switch around a little bit, I want to also talk about the women's 3000. I know I might lose a lot of people here, but this is important. And Beatrice Chebet, I think, is having a season to behold. One of the great athletes of our time now. And, she went second on the all-time list over 3,000 meters. It's not an event that we always see and people running competitive, but she just shot up right up on the ranking there, running 8:11:56. That's the second fastest ever over 3,000 meters. And she's about 25 years now, already with the Olympic double in the 5,000 and the 10,000. She also has some stuff on the road as well. And now she's only behind Wang from China. That this world record was set in 1993, so of 8:06:11. It's something that if she sets her mind to, I think she can do it. I think what we've seen from Beatrice Chebet is very impressive. There's no doubt in my mind she's gonna probably start favorite again to do the double in Paris, and not Paris, in Tokyo. Even though we might see a bunch of other athletes that we like, your good Ufsa guys and whoever. You know, I don't know if fate will double again, but we'll have to wait to see for that. But what Chebet is doing shouldn't be undervalued. We should highlight it. We should think about some of those impressive performances and pushing up on records that immediately put her up in the top in the all-time list. And there's some really top athletes there. Your good Ufsa guys is on the list, Stefan Hassan, a bunch of other people. So you know, it's I like what I'm seeing there. What's going on? Objectivity. It's good. I don't know. You miss. I don't know what you miss. I think we talked about a bunch of stuff. I guess a lot of people drop off the live once I went to distance. But it is. We talk a little about Shericka. Spend some time thinking about. I think she's improving. Looks much better. Talked a bit about Aki Simbine. Letsile Tebogo there with a bit an injury here and there, and hopefully he gets back into the mix. What else do we talk about? We talk about Femke Bol, and I'm just talking a bit. Masalela in the 800 meters impressed me a lot, and Beatrice Chebet. So, some of that kind of stuff that we kind of touch base on there uh, so far for the season. I hope you're doing well. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah. So, that's some interesting stuff to think about. I could go through some more results. I don't have to go through it. I was impressed by the men's shot put at Rabat too. That came down to two world leads. One first by Rajendra Campbell to look like he was going to win it. 21.95, and then Peyton Otterdahl there from the United States. Dropping in on his last throw, going 21.97, and that to take the shot put. Shot put has been going really good this season. It started out what I thought in Iowa was a good event. I don't know if many people saw that thing, that World Shot Put Series that Krauser started, and it was interesting. It wasn't the regular shot put you had to just throw to meet markers, and it was interesting. Krauser for me this year is, he's been struggling with some injuries, so I don't know when we'll next see him next, and if he's going to be in any great shape by the time we get to the World Championships. We hope we do. But the shot put men are doing some fabulous stuff, and I can put up the result there again. And we'll see a bunch of them in action soon this week. But there's going to be some good shot put coming up. But a bunch of guys going over 21 meters, and it's still early. But Joe Kovacs is there too. He can throw 23 meters if he wants to. And yeah, but it was good competition there from Campbell from Jamaica and Otterdahl winning it in the end there. Oh, speaking of Campbell from Jamaica, the thing that I was noticing this for the last few weeks, and I noticed that he still competes in a Jamaican attire, right? He's not even wearing he doesn't have a sponsor, it doesn't seem like. I knew he didn't have a sponsor a couple of years ago, but he certainly doesn't have a kid sponsor, which is interesting. Hopefully he gets one. Uh, he has talent. He's an Olympic medalist, but it's also a challenging kind of event in the sport in the sense that money doesn't always flow the right way. But hopefully he gets a sponsor at some point. Yeah, yeah. There's some other stuff. Oh, 100-meter hurdles, that was good too. I want to briefly touch on that. That happened before the program officially started. But in terms of the world feed, but Toby Amerson, 12:45, really looking good. Didn't get as much of an explosive. Well, she got a good start, I thought, because I watched it a few times, but not the greatest of start that we've used to Toby. But once she got into her running, she started to pull away from Kambunji and Vessa in the end. Comfortable at 12:45, season best for her. That's some good running. I like what I saw there. I think that's her looking the best we've seen in a long time. New training environment, as many know. She's been running a couple 100 meters recently too. We saw her in, where was it, Atlanta and so on. But once you start getting in the 12 fours, you're starting to make some noise. 12 threes that will come, I imagine. But again, the 100-meter hurdles is just so competitive. We already saw it, what, 12-19, 12-17 for the season already. So it's a challenging event, 12 twos. I think you got to show up at the World Championship in 12-2 shape. You might not have to run 12-2 to win, but if you're not in that kind of shape, or if your body isn't capable of getting to that, good luck. It's just it's just wild. I mean, it continues to amaze me how competitive women's 100-meter hurdles is. It's the most competitive event in track and field, and I don't see changing anytime soon. So that was pretty good running there from Toby Amazon. So we'll see. And speaking of what of running and hurdles, we saw earlier this evening Jasmine Camacho Quinn there. Uh, she she's she's back to training in a sense. Let me see if I can get it up. I got this off her Instagram here, and she said she had some Achilles injury, and now she's back to the training. So hopefully that's a good sign for Camacho Quinn. As you know, Camacho Quinn is one of my favorite athletes. I think when I think about Jasmine Camacho Quinn, no matter what kind of shape she's in, she always finds a way on the podium. I haven't. Thanks for reminding me on that. Christopher Taylor. So Objectivity is asking if we discuss Christopher Taylor. I didn't. I think I had it on my list of things to talk about. First, it's good to have him back. Should never have been out. I still It's still a bit hard to process what was happening, why the explanation was never clear. Were you dodging the doping guys? In the end, he served his time, and now he's back. He looked, as best as we thought. I don't know what to make of the run. I thought it was a good run, right? It wasn't a particularly super fast time for him, but it's what he's been out for close to 3 years. It's what two and change, and so he clocked what was it, 45.66, if my memory serves me correctly. And the competition in the race wasn't there. He was basically running by himself. It wasn't a competitive field for his caliber. It's hard to draw a lot of conclusions from that race, but you must be rusty if you're out. So the bigger takeaway, though, is he looks healthy. He looks technically he looks okay. He has that kind of throw in the back a bit, but it's okay. The key now for him is progression. So he needs to start dipping into the 4 to 4 second range. That's where I would think about it. If he wants to be a real contender to make the Jamaica national team, then at some point you have to line up against the big names. He has to prove himself that he still belongs in the top tier. And if he can get back to his best, what is his best? Like 44.6, I believe, or somewhere around there. That, that would be the first step. It's a necessary step for sure. But the 400 meters is a very competitive space, and he needs to start getting into that sub 45 quickly, getting very and moving and trending towards a low 44. I'm not sure if he has a sub 44 in him. It's a very small athlete. When you think about 400 meters, He's been always pretty quick. I think when he was just coming through, there was a question, at least at the senior level, whether his body could manage the training. I think they figured that out. Hopefully they have, and if he has, then he can move up. But I think it's good to have him back, try get the rust out a bit, and then just more competition. And if he can start doing that, regain some confidence, because the number one thing too, it's almost like he's coming off an injury, right? If you think about it that way, it will take some time to relearn, feel comfortable out there. I know amount of training run can replicate real competition, and so I would say give it some time. He's definitely good enough to be a part of a relay pool, and if he gets it right, who knows? He may even be able to do an individual event. Uh, Objectivity, Jasmine is assuring to make the Puerto Rican team. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Uh, I know you're joking there, but yeah, I mean, Camacho Quinn. My thing about Camacho Quinn is mentally she's super tough. One of the toughest athletes out there. She'll find a way on a podium when when she doesn't when her form doesn't dictate that she should be on the podium, and that's a hallmark of true champion. Objectivities also say this. Yes, this was the most impressive uh thing about his race. Almost 3 years, drops of 45. Yeah. Hopefully, Wordy's doing the 200, so he's only going to do the two and not the four. Is that what you're saying? And then he looks in supreme shape. Yeah, he looked good. He looked good. I think there's not much we could. Yeah, I don't think there's much I could. I think there's a problem there. I think it's hard to really make a good guess off one race, right? But I think he looked decent. I think for being out for that long, he must be happy with that. I imagine if he continues to run, then we'll see more of him. We're getting to that point where a lot of questions for multiple athletes will be answered very soon. It's warming up. By the time we get to the end of June, we can start making some big statements. Right? Because the question is, by then, it's about form, the shape, how well you're doing. If you started a bit late, then you should have been in good shape by that point in time. And we can start to make our guesses, but we'll have to see. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think I saw that. When is Races Grand Prix? It's not this week, it's the week after, right? I already bought my subscription thing for that. I think I don't remember when it is. Yeah, it's coming up. But yeah, I wish Christopher Taylor the very best, and I hope that he can move, m- get much faster. I suspect he will, and he's very talented. We all know that. We're not saying anything new there, and hopefully he'll get back into good shape. Speaking of getting back into good shape, we can talk about the curious case of even Athing Mo, right? So Athing, it's what, our first competitive race since July of last year. Her her season continues to raise questions for me. I get it. We saw her in a little bit of a race here and there. Then she dropped out. Was it a 1,000 a couple weeks ago? I can't remember. And Bobby Kersey's an interesting guy. He does all sort of wild stuff, so it's hard to put your finger on it. But she ran a 1,500 meters, 4 minutes 10. Not particularly fast by truly elite standards, we must be honest, but she's an 800-meter runner. And in the end, she was run down by Sadie Sargent. Uh, but I think at her best runner, she doesn't run a lot of 1,500s, but at her best, she's a 403 runner. which she did, I believe, a few years ago. And so, talking afterwards, I saw the interview. She said, she's just trying to feel things out, see where they are. But I have to be honest with you, when you look at a talent like Athing, she's a truly great talent, one of the greatest we've seen, a generational talent, one with the ability, if she's put her mind to it, could go down as the greatest 800-meter runner we've ever seen. At this stage, it's going to be challenging, but she could, because she missed out on the Olympics last year. But if she was to get into great shape, win a bunch of world titles, consistently run those low 155s into 154s, who knows? But the last couple of years has just been uncharacteristic. It's just a wild run, right? And see, I was going to say this again. I think I've said it a couple of times to objectivity. I don't think she loved the sport. I think she's fallen out of love with track and field. And some of the performances and the way she runs, even last year at the U.S. National Championships, it's just you can't help but wonder if she's committed to the sport. Now, I never want to question people's commitment, so I might be a bit harsh there, but this version of Mo is not the version we certainly saw at Texas A&M and the one that went on to dominate the Olympics that year. It's a totally different athlete right now. One that looks to me a shadow of herself, a shadow of that dominant force. And I hope it changes soon because she's good. She's a top class athlete, a top class talent. And I just want to see the best of her thing, the same way I want to see Keely Hutchinson back fit and healthy and having people run because the 800 meters is in a great space. We have a lot of talented athletes. The 800-meter run at Rabat yesterday was fabulous too, if we're being honest with ourselves. We, got a lot of good running from the South African athlete Duguma there. We Prudence Sedagi. So it's a bunch of really, really good stuff. So it's not a easy place to be. So you have to take it seriously. Otherwise, you're gonna get left behind. So I don't know. Hopefully, she finds her way back to her best. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. So lots of interesting stuff this week, and uh, not quite sure what else we want to cover, but there's a bunch of track and field coming up soon. The next Diamond League is in Rome. That should come up in 9 days or so. The Rome Diamond League is always good. And this weekend we have Grand Slam track. There's some Continental Tour stuff. So a number of things will be happening. I will be around, obviously, to cover all of that. We'll do some watch-alongs. We'll come back and do some review shows. We should have come last night, but it was the Memorial Day weekend for those of you in the States, and it just didn't happen yesterday. So hopefully you guys are keeping well. Appreciate you as usual for hanging out, and I'm gonna call it a night. And so I'll catch up with you in the coming weeks, in the coming days rather. You guys take care. Bye bye.